Welcome aboard, crew. And yeah, that's right, your eyes do not deceive you. This is not another 100-day video. Nope, because for the very first time ever, I'm going to be starting my official very first series slash let's play slash playthrough slash classic Minecraft. Although classic might not be the right word, because we're going to be playing inside of this old abandoned city. And what will we be doing inside of this city? We'll be playing through the entirety of Nuclearcraft as we go from absolutely nothing all the way up to a fusion reactor, hence the name of the video. Getting all the way to a fusion reactor is going to take a lot more than just 100 days, so just one 100 days video won't do it. And we're probably not going to be getting our fusion reactor today. Let's just try to get a solid workshop slash base going, starting with wooden tools, like any good Minecraft playthrough should. Isn't that right, Dickin? Also, by the river, I find this open little trench. And I decided to jump in because, you know what, maybe wooden tools is a bad idea. Let's get some stone. But before we get too lost in the mining, we should probably focus on getting some food. I'm using Pam's HarvestCraft, you know me, and I can use these crop seeds to feed Dickin and his little friends so that we might have some better food. Every crop can be turned into seeds, even peanuts, although I think, isn't peanut already a peanut seed? Anyway, that doesn't matter. Eat up, little guys. We head down to the water, and we get ourselves some clay. Next, get the furnace going. You know how we do. But I think we should try to find a better spot than just hanging out by the river. Let's look around for a decent little starter base. I head a little bit into the city, and I find this little house right here. Yeah, seen better days, but it'll have to do. First things first, let's cook up our clay. And second things second, let's inform this tenant here that it's officially eviction time. Bye-bye. I'd make a I got a bone to pick with you joke here, but come on, we all know I'm above that kind of stuff. The reason we're going to be cooking up clay is that we need bricks in order to make some HarvestCraft tools, like this skillet to make these eggs into fried eggs. Yum. And for our first food ever, not too bad. Speaking of first ever, we get our first ever iron in our little river mine. Grab a little bit of coal, because burning up wood just wasn't feeling right. And by that night, we get back to base. We start setting up all of the basics, getting our furnace going out and finding a little wood, spruce wood. I knew I liked this place. Then we come back in and we start to set up some basic storage. One side for our food and the other side for everything else. You know me, I don't love organizing. What I do love is that now we have just enough iron to make an iron pick. Ironic. Gotta love these puns. Also, gotta love a full set of gear that we get ready. And by the beautiful sunrise in this city, we're ready to get started proper. We run back out into the river mine and we get ready to collect some not so vanilla ores. Starting with a little copper ore. Next up, we grab some tin ore, but of course we're still going to try to get a ton of iron as well. So after a full day of mining, we head back home and we start to cook up everything that we've got. Now the eggs were a great start, but probably should keep an eye on my cholesterol levels. And we should try to find a little spot to start adding some crops. We can go right out into this little area where we have a wall and start to set up our first little farm. It's important to realize that in Pam's HarvestCraft, you have to put crops down according to the season. And I have no idea what season it is. I do, however, know that onions will grow any time of the year. Stinky Boy does what Stinky Boy does. However, those eggs are going to be good year-round, so we make sure to give plenty of seeds to Dickin and his friends as well. We've got mustard seeds which only grow in summer, and carrot seeds which will only grow in the spring. Maybe that will help us figure out what season it is. In the meantime, we have enough iron to get ourselves a decent little kit. As for figuring out the season, we can use a season clock, but it's going to take some nether quartz, so we're just going to have to experiment with crops for now. So I head out to do even more mining. In the morning, we keep on trying to get as many chickens as we can. Until I know the season, this will be our source of food. However, onions don't hurt, which means that our diet officially consists of old rotten eggs and raw onions. So stinky, you can smell it in real life. Now with a little bit of food and better gear, we do finally make a mining run all the way down to Y11. We get some redstone and search around until we find, boom, Nuclearcraft elements, thorium and uranium. These are going to be important items to help us get started in Nuclearcraft. Now that's great, but we're going to have to be careful with just how much we carry. The bar down below shows just how much radiation we are taking. Not too much right now, but we gotta be careful. In order to not take too much radiation damage, we are gonna be focusing on getting solar panels. Solar panels at night can be a bit of a pain, so we're gonna get magnesium and lithium to try to make batteries to store up our solar energy. That being said, the captain does like them a little bit spicy, so we're still gonna collect all the uranium we come across. Ooh, do you guys have tingling in your fingers and toes? We come back to the surface that night and pop out in the river, and by the time we get back to the base, I can see that our carrots that grow in the spring are not growing. But the mustard, which grows only in summer, is. I think I might know what season it is. But just to be sure, we're going to take these flax seeds. These only grow in spring, and if these things don't pop up, then we'll know we're in summer for sure. Now that we have a ton of ores of all different types, we're going to craft up a ton of furnaces so that we can quickly smelt up some of these ores. But let's be real here, guys. The ores we're going to prioritize are uranium and thorium, our big spicy rocks. Now this is looking pretty good. What's looking pretty bad is this chest. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a hoarder here. I couldn't tell you the theme of this chest if I tried. But like any good procrastinator, I'll organize tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, we have enough string to make enough wool to get a bed. So let's get some shut-eye. And on the start of the next day, we're going to get our very first Nuclearcraft machines going. That requires a decay generator, which is a machine that generates power, hence the name generator, off of passively absorbing the energy from naturally decaying radioactive elements, hence the decay. We get a couple big blocks of radioactive elements and put them directly in the same room that I'm sleeping. This should be good. Next up, let's actually get some use out of this power. As we, once again, fall in love with a man, the Manufactory is the first machine that you're going to make in any Nuclearcraft playthrough. Plop that onto the decay generator, and perfect. Well, looking at that power level, perfect might not be the right word. Let's add another block of uranium to double our power. We add another decay generator and another Manufactory. I mean, it can't hurt, right? Well, it can't really help either if it's completely zapped of energy. So the number one priority of our playthrough right now will be getting more power. We're going to be doing that by getting solar panels. Solar panels take graphite dust and crushed quartz, both of which are made in the Manufactory, hence why they're the first machines we made. I go back to the crops. All of the spring ones are no good, and the summer ones are barely coming along. So now that we know that we are for sure in summer, we'll plan accordingly. However, we're still definitely going to make sure that these cute little chickies are nice and fed, because they're a very reliable source of food in the meantime. Look at them. Look at them all. I decided to take my anger out on my own ankles, as I jump down and just miss the water, getting down to 2 hearts. Yeah, this is going really great. Luckily, we find some lapis, which is another component inside of basic solar panels. Even more lucky, we find some diamonds, which, I mean, first of all, diamonds, it's pretty good. But second of all, these are going to help us get to the nether to get the nether quartz. We head back home early on the next day, and we immediately get ourselves a diamond pick. And a little diamond sword won't hurt either. Now what will hurt is my soul, because it's completely broken looking at just how pathetic our manufactories are. We've been gone for almost an entire night, and they've barely gotten anything done. I head outside and I try to distract myself by doing a little bit of farming. Now that we know it's summer, we can focus on getting all of our summer crops down. I jump down and actually land on the water this time, and then I use our diamond pick to get some obsidian, because now we're headed to the nether. Just like the nether is probably going to fry us, we get ready by frying up some eggs. Then we head out to our little courtyard, and we set up the nether portal. Now, we have a little iron, and we just need a little flint to make flint and steel, although it's obviously called steel and not iron, but no, I'm not judging. I'm definitely judging. We head into the nether, and I quickly see that we've spawned inside of a big ash block biome. This will be great later, but for right now it kind of sucks because what I really want is nether quartz. Eventually, we do find some, and then once we've gathered it up, we make our way back home. And now, boys and girls, we have to endure the worst part of the game. That's right, we have to use our pathetic amount of power to try to grind up just one piece of quartz. Yeah, this quartz might not be getting crushed, but my soul is. After sitting around and counting my toes again, we finally have one piece of crushed quartz. Now, we make some iron plates, And with a little copper and a little more iron, we make some copper solenoids. All we need is that graphite dust. Luckily, we have 3 little piles after all this time. And now, just barely, we can make our solar panel. Eco-friendly indeed. Of course, solar panels do have to, be out in the sun, so we're going to head up to the roof and start to plop these up top. We set out this first one, and then we move one of our manufactories out here as well. We then get ready to make more quartz so that we can make more solar panels, but with just one solar panel, there's more suffering on the part of the captain because it takes forever to charge up this manufactory. Now that's obviously going to take a while, so instead of ripping our hair out and going completely insane, let's just stay partially insane and focus on something else. That something else will be making a little pen. I'm going to be using upgraded fences from Mr. Crayfish because I just love them so much. And just down the steps from the farm, we're going to find a nice level area and set out a chicken pen for Dickens and the chickens. Not too bad. And on top of that, we actually have a couple pieces of quartz. That means we can now set up another solar panel in the middle of the night. Just when I thought we were actually going to be doing good. Well, in Minecraft, we can do a little bit of cheating here, and by jumping in bed, we can skip to the next day. By doing this, our solar panels are nice and fired up. Sure enough, the manufactories are already making more materials for more solar panels. More solar panels means more energy to make more materials. You guys see what I'm doing here. And the next thing you guys will get to see me do is to harvest up all of these crops. But in truth, I don't have enough crops to make any decent recipes. So I'm going to turn all of these onions into seeds because right now our best source of food is still these fried eggs. So we take these seeds, we finish up the chicken pen, and soon we lure all of our little cluckies into their brand new slaughterhouse. Home. It's a nice home, you guys. Don't pay attention to that. Here, just have some seeds. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm definitely gonna kill you one day. What? No, who said that? Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Speaking of killing, the lack of storage has really been killing me. So I make a few more chests so that I'll have plenty. This first chest is literally random junk, I don't even know. But in the future, at least now we'll have some room to put all of the finished materials and all of the building materials. Speaking of building materials, we're going to head out to get a bunch of sand from the riverside. We start to cook it up to make some glass. And while that's all running, let's head back down to do a little more mining. The main thing we're going after here is marble. It will be one of our building materials, but also the main thing we're going to do here is find some redstone and burn it up in lava immediately. Ah, classic the captain. Oh, and speaking of classic the captain, we run into some completely harmless skeletons. Yeah, I know, a 7-year-old could kill these, but not me. I get down to 1.5 hearts, have to box myself in, and then sheepishly have to run away. But it's not all totally pathetic, because after working for an entire day, our solar array has actually managed to make a decent little pile of crushed up quartz. So, with the industry headed in the right way, and those chickens looking pretty good, it's now time to get started on our next necessity. I've only been eating fried eggs for the past week, and so to say I'm constipated would be an understatement. Let's go out and find a nice open area by the riverbank and start to set up a little farm. The idea here is that we're going to grow some wheat, carrots, and potatoes. Along with the chicken, this will be all the ingredients to make chicken pot pie. Although at the time I didn't really realize just how much the seasons were going to make this a real pain in the butt. And speaking of pain in my butt, we'll no longer be constipated after we grow some wheat seeds. With this, we'll be able to make some flour, which will be useful for a ton of recipes and a good source of fiber, of course. And speaking of chicken pot pie, while I'm still trying to figure this out, we are going to have to make some cooking utensils regardless to make the ingredients for whatever our next food item is going to be. That starts with a mixing bowl to make dough, and also a pestle and mortar to make flour. We get some fresh water, which we can put inside of a pot to make salt. With that fresh water, that ground up flour, and that salt that we have, we can make some dough. This will be great for a whole bunch of items. I mean, it's dough. Do I really have to explain how dough works? I then continue to work with my chickens, getting them all nice and fattened up. And oops, this one got out. Well, it would be too tough to try to get it back in, so I guess I have to kill him. Completely justified. I'm not a brutal person at all. But since I am in such a bloodthirsty mood, I decided to go and clear out any wild chickens that are on the map. Next, we put all of our food items here in this chest, including the raw chicken, and yeah, I'm sure that won't go bad. No. And speaking of going completely spoiled, I decide to spoil myself, as now we have enough resources to make a couple more solar panels. In fact, we make a grid of 9. To connect all these, we're also going to use some redstone and make flux ducts. This is what that glass was for. I head up to my rooftop and I start to set out a brand new solar array. By making a grid of power lines, I can then throw down all of my solar panels. Now, all of these panels will be feeding into these 2 manufactories, essentially increasing their power from 1 panel each to 6 panels each. But we're not going to stop there. The more the merrier, and we continue to produce more and more solar panels as we start to really expand this array. Now, we're getting somewhere. Speaking of getting somewhere, I think it's finally time that we craft up this compass. But how much more time do we have to prepare for fall? None at all, actually. According to our brand new season clock, by tomorrow, it will be autumn. I wake up a little bit chilly. What better way to keep me warm than with a new furnace? Specifically, the alloy furnace. For anyone who watches my Nuclearcraft videos, you know just how much I love this thing. An alloy furnace will combine 2 materials and usually make them into a more useful alloy. If we take a little bit of iron and we combine it with coal, we can start to make steel, which is going to be super important for this playthrough. Like annoyingly important. Like, I literally spend all day making steel. Sorry. Not angry. I'm not angry. Let's go ahead and make another kind of furnace, a redstone furnace. This is a standard furnace, with the only difference being instead of running on coal, it will run on RF, power. Therefore, we can now use a furnace without burning through all of our coal, which we can save to make more steel. I think it's time that we start to throw together our own base. I get a chisel, which lets us use the mod chisel. And I start to chisel. I said chisel way too many times here. I start to make some decorative marble blocks. By that night, I start to lay out the ground, which will be this beautiful tiled marble. What's not going so well is with the changing of the seasons, my crops have been a little bit thrown out of course here. I won't be able to get potatoes, and pretty soon, I won't even be able to grow carrots. We're gonna have to pivot. We get a juicer, which juices eggs into mayo. Disgusting. But with mayo, a little bit of bread, and some chicken, we can make a chicken sandwich. Not quite Chick-fil-A, but it'll have to do. Now, with a belly full of food, we can get focused back on making our base. We're going to make this engineer's hammer. This will help us pound out the steel into steel plates. And we need to do this in order to make steel sheet metal. This will be our primary building material for our base. And also, the primary reason for me going completely insane, because making enough steel to make a base is going to take way too long. But that doesn't stop me from trying, and now I'm focused on making as much steel as I can. We turn some of it into rods so that we can make steel scaffolding, which has this really cool look and makes it look like I'm building a bare bones industrial building. I quickly run around and start to make all of the corners of our little shack. Then I start to take some thin steel sheets and I start to make our roof. But I've still got quite a lot of work to do. Trust me. And while the steel is cooking, I head out to get a little more marble. We get tons of it in just a few minutes, and all we have to do is clear out some space and lay it all down. This was no problem. That comes later. For right now, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I even decide to add a little staircase that will lead from our temporary base to our workshop. I will now have to carefully and meticulously remove this glass wall by bashing it in. Besides, a little jagged glass never hurt anybody, right? I should probably get some better protection. We're going to go into the alloy furnace and take some of our steel and combine it with boron. This will get us ferroboron. Combine that again in the alloy furnace with some lithium, and this will get us, tough alloy, one of the best items in Nuclearcraft. It's basically diamonds, only way cooler. And now that we can manufacture a ton of it, we can now basically make diamond picks infinitely. And I am so excited about this, I run out in the middle of the night and start using this pick to do a little bit of mining. But we'll still always stop off to get some lithium and copper whenever we can. And I'm so excited about this new synthetic diamond pick that I even use it to break this obsidian, just because I can, I break a hole all the way to the roof through obsidian. And as my love affair with tough alloy continues, I start to make even more. The thing I'm not in love with is how full my inventory is getting, and just how long it's taking to empty my inventory into all the manufactories. I'm going to do a classic Captain trick, and I'm going to add a hopper system to one of the manufactories so that we can have all of this automated while we're doing other things. I add a hopper and a chest on top to put all of the ores into the manufactory. Underneath that, we add another hopper and another chest to pull out all of the finished processed dust. Yeah, you're jealous, I know. But don't get too envious, because remember, at nighttime, the struggle is for real. We can fix that, though, by making a pile, which is a primitive sort of battery. In order to make a pile, we're just going to need a little graphite dust, which just needs a little more power, which would be easy if we had power stored up in a pile. You know what, maybe I bragged a little bit too early. By the next morning, we have just a little more steel and just a little more graphite dust, which is all we need to make our pile. What better way to charge up this brand new pile than with an advanced solar panel? This does take a little bit of my precious tough alloy, but then again, everything in Nuclearcraft does, so I think I'll be okay. I decide that instead of having this furnace off to the side, I'm going to run some power down to the very bottom here, so I can take this furnace and connect it directly underneath the manufactory. All the dust that's finished in the manufactory will automatically go down into this furnace, then it will be cooked, and I'll have all of my ores not only as dust, but finished into ingots. Ingots? Ingots. Ingots. Ignot? IG knots. You guys know what I mean. That night, I'm going to experiment with a brand new machine that I've never made before. This is called the Factorizer, and one of the reasons I want to give this thing a try is because apparently it will turn ash into coal. So, that means we can go to the Nether, fill our entire inventory full of ash, drop it off here into the fabricator, and create our own coal. And we're going to need a lot of coal too, because it takes 4 coal to make 1 ingot of steel. It takes 4 coal to make 1 steel. With more steel comes more tough alloy, and now we can finally suit up and go from iron to my favorite gear in the game, tough alloy gear. And now we're really playing Nuclearcraft. I crush up all the steel we've made and turn it into a ton of sheet metal. Combine that with some scaffolding, and it's time to really get started in building up our workshop. Now, the big thing is we're going to be really tight on steel, so I definitely shouldn't be using it frivolously to make a bunch of decorative blocks. So the very first thing I do is use a bunch of steel frivolously to make a bunch of decorative blocks. I start by making these diagonal steel scaffolding support beams. Now, will all of this look cool and be worth all of the struggle? Well, you'll just have to tell me down in the comments. But also say yes, or else you'll break my heart. We continue to use some steel slabs to make a little bit of an angled roof, and by that night, everything is coming together pretty well. But again, this is made out of a super expensive material, so it'll look good in the end, I promise, I promise. For now, while the steel is cooking, we've got plenty of time to waste, which means I have plenty of time to almost fall to my death. And even though I definitely deserve to die right there, I do continue to live another day or two, which I spend doing a ton of mining. In fact, by the time I get back to the surface, we have fully jumped into the throes of fall. All of the vines and the trees are starting to turn colors. And it would look really cool if it wasn't so ominous. Winter really makes it tough to grow crops, so we're going to need to get ready. I'm really going to try to hurry up and get our shelter built before the winter hits. I connect all of the scaffolding supports, and come on now, I can already tell this is going to look good. I then start to make all of the walls out of steel sheet metal, which is super expensive, and yeah, I should probably not be doing this. What I should be doing is trying to make some better lights. I get some gold, and I make some golden lanterns. I hang those on the base, and yeah, that's looking good. Speaking of good, it'd probably be a good idea to find a different building material, something that isn't so expensive as steel. Instead, I'm going to use some iron and make iron sheet metal. This was a good pivot, because not only will it be cheaper, but it also looks better. Now, with the steel and iron, there's a little bit more color and variation, and I think it makes the base look a lot better. We start to set up our lights, and pretty soon, I'm getting a good idea of how this is going to look. We've got about half the base done, and even though it's really expensive and made out of a ton of precious metals, I still think it's going to be worth it in the end. Now, you guys know me. As a captain, I am obsessed with booty, so working on the backside here is probably one of my favorite things to do. It's already looking pretty tight, and we didn't even need to do any squats. Now, all the machines are running pretty well, and the steel is coming along eventually. I want to set up all of the advanced panels and the piles, but I think I'm going to wait and put these in the new base instead. After all, it's starting to come along pretty well. By the next day, we start to get the far side of the roof all set up, and now we just have one little hole, gigantic, massive hole. We just have to finish up the roof, okay? But we're almost there. And that's what makes it so painful when I get all the way to just one slice of steel away from finishing this. Ooh, that one stings. But I guess I should be happy, because what it really means is that we've finished our little steel workshed. With all of the supports in place, all of the lights looking proper, and finally, our last slice of sheet metal on the roof, we now have an awesome Nuclearcraft workshop. This building right here may look humble, but it's where we're going to craft up everything we need to make our fusion reactor. But before we go there, let's try to master the solar panel age. And speaking of master, the next day, I see that everything is looking pretty good. This whole setup has gotten us a ton of industrial goods, and it's really coming along pretty well. The power still is a little bit short, but like I said, I don't want to invest my better stuff into this setup just yet. Instead, for right now, let's just continue to make more and more materials so that we can make even better solar panels and better piles to really get our workshop humming. And of course, getting more of that amazing tough alloy, which means we need more steel, which means we need more coal. Maybe I shouldn't have made my base out of steel. In order to speed up the process of getting steel and tough alloy all together, we're going to make another alloy furnace. However, I don't want to keep on adding machines to the old setup. I want to get started in our new workshop. So that's where this alloy furnace is going to go. Here on the right, we start by setting up a power grid where we can start to plug in our machines. However, I don't want to just make a big hole in the wall, so instead, we're going to dig down and run the power through the ground. Now you're probably thinking, well, what power? Where is this cord going? Don't worry, I'm getting there. Rarely do I plan things out and know what I'm doing in advance, but this time is a rare exception because I've left a perfect area right here to start to set up our solar panels. Finally, we set up that advanced pile on top of it. This will start to collect all of the energy from the solar panels. We're going to be using advanced solar panels to really kick things into the next gear. But now we actually have a battery loop. It's complicated, but all you really need to know is that all of the solar energy is going to go to the solar panels, which means when we head back inside, we can see that the alloy furnace is getting none of the power from any of those panels. This is going to need a lot of work, so let's get started right away. We set up another grid opposite of the first one, but since it's already getting late, we don't have any rush to put down a solar panel just yet. Let's get another alloy furnace set up on the grid and start to get even more tough alloy cooking. This is priority number 1 to get more advanced piles and more advanced solar panels. In the morning, we make some hard carbon alloy, RIP diamond, and we combine 1 tin with 3 parts copper, and for any of you medieval boys, you already know we're getting some bronze. And with all of this and a little bit of steel as well, everything takes steel, let's be real, we can finally make a new tool. A multi-tool. This is necessary to work with the pile. By going underneath it, we can use the tool, and that little red triangle means that power is now going from the battery down into the pipes, and sure enough, is powering up all of these machines nicely. This is probably the best running machines we've seen this whole playthrough. So let's not stop there. Let's go ahead and get another setup going, starting with another advanced pile. Also, in order to stop the power loop, we need to completely disconnect the power going into the pile on the top and the power going out. To do that, we just need to move the solar panels up 1 block and then have another connecting grid of flux ducts. Easy peasy. Speaking of easy peasy, we add another advanced pile onto this grid. Soon we start to set up the inputs up here as well. Now, as we put these advanced solar panels down, all 3 of them will go into the battery and charge it up. Then the power will move out of the battery into the warehouse. And if we make enough solar panels, the battery should be making excess power, charging up so that they'll work at least a little bit into the night. Well, that's the plan. And sure enough, Plan looks like it's working pretty well, as the machines are pumping along nicely. Of course, it's only 2 machines, so maybe we should start working on getting another solar array set out. Of course, this is going to need more materials, so we run out and start doing some more digging. Magnesium for more piles, of course. Seriously, like a lot of magnesium for more piles. And after spending a whole lot of time underground, we come up to a chilly autumn night. Reminds me that winter is coming. What am I, Jon Snow now? We move all of our ores here and start to get them cooking up, but I decide that I don't really want to do this. I want to move this whole setup over into the workshop. I start by setting out a chest up here, which is where we'll put all of the ores, and then eventually I start to one by one move all of the machines over to the new warehouse, starting with a hopper on top of our manufactory. Underneath that, I set down the furnace so that once again, all of the ores will be cooked in the manufactory, go down to the furnace, and end up in that little chest. I think it's time to make it official and really call this our base by putting down our bed. Back up at our old array, I finally start to move over all of the ores. I take these and I pop these into the top chest in the new workshop. But I did forget one slightly important little thing. I have to actually power these. So I run a power grid over on this side of the workshop as well. Once again, I want to run the power lines underneath the base because I just think it looks nice. As I run this power cord out to the grid, I consider setting up a whole extra 2 panels for this side of the base alone, but I decide that's a little bit of overkill. After all, eventually we're going to have much better power sources in the future, and these solar panels are only really to be useful temporarily. Speaking of solar panels, eventually we do plug into the entire grid. Now, all 3 of these solar arrays will be running underground and into the workshop. With this little setup alone, we already have a pretty solid workshop, but we can do even better. And since I've officially moved out of that top base, I decide I'm going to come up here and take the furnace as well as all 12 of these solar panels. Moving these down to the workshop will really help to boost our speed. In fact, we should be able to support 3 alloy furnaces. This is actually kind of cool. All we have to do is make sure to keep on adding more advanced solar panels to our array. We add a second furnace, because honestly, you can never have too many. And now, we just need to keep on making our tough alloy. A ton of tough alloy means we can make a ton of advanced panels. A ton of advanced panels means we can make a ton of advanced solar panels. So much so that I think it's finally time to commit to a 3rd solar array. We set down an advanced pile here, and once again, start to set up the input with 1 advanced panel on top. Better make it 2. With this new alloy furnace set up, the top furnace can make steel. Then the middle one will add boron to make ferroboron, and finally at the bottom we'll add the lithium, and we can make a quick moving system with no interruptions and get a ton of tough alloy. And your boy Captain is very, very happy about that. We have enough materials to make a 3rd solar panel, and now we have 3 by 3, but I think we can really go up to the next gear. With all of this solar energy, it's time to make some speed upgrades. And speed upgrades are great because they double the speed of your machine. Very cool. But as you can see, they double the power usage as well. So we're going to have to continue to work on making even more solar panels. Truth is, we're definitely going to be adding more machines as well. So even though we're making a ton of energy right now, we're going to set up a full 3 solar arrays, each one of them with 9 advanced panels. That should be a ton of energy and really get us over the hump, at least until we need a fusion reactor. In fact, we're making enough steel that I decide to officially finish up our entire kit by making a steel shield. Now, each piece of our gear is Nuclearcraft approved and looking good. What's better yet is that the solar panel production is really streamlined. We now have an entire middle panel done and looking good. At this point, I was feeling like this would be a good spot to stop the video. After all, we said we were going to make solar panels, and we sure did. I just need to make about 10 more advanced panels, and then we can kind of hibernate for the winter. So I go down and I start mining to get all the last little bit of resources that we'll need. And sure enough, when I come out, I see a little bit of snow. That means, yep, winter has come. Everything is covered in its very first layer of snow, and even some of the lake is frozen over too. And since I'm prepared for this, this is actually pretty cool. I'm feeling really good. Until As I headed back to my base, I see what I swear looks like another player. I put out a shield, and I slowly start to approach, and sure enough, he fires the first shot. I'm stunned, I actually trip, and I fall back into my mine, but I quickly manage to get back to the surface and start to scout around. That's it, he keeps shooting. This is a hostile. Time to take him out. I sneak up with my shield, and I manage to keep him from doing too much damage. A couple slices, and this soldier is KIA. But that was only one member of the squad. One of the soldiers has taken over my base. I run away because I want to get some better food from my farm when I see that a third soldier has captured my farm. He starts shooting at me. This isn't good. I'm running out of food. I quickly rush in and try to take him down as quickly as I can. He gets a couple shots in, but he doesn't stop me. I run in, and I quickly make up what food I can. Fried eggs. That's how we started. That's how we're going to end. I know that there's still a soldier in here. I get ready, open the door, and I rush in. I swipe him down as quick as I can, and honestly, I make pretty quick work of this little attack. But this is just a scouting party. I know that in the next video, an even bigger threat will approach. We're finishing up our solar panels now, but soon we're going to have to work on a fission reactor. I know that in the coming days, next year, and next video, there will be bigger threats on the horizon. To be prepared for those, we're going to have to make a fusion reactor. I finish up the last bit of my solar panels, and I get them all set up. This should be a good amount of power for now. Even as the threat of another attack looms over us, I gotta say, I'm still pretty proud. This solar array looks amazing. I mean, just check this thing out. Plus, it's gonna make enough power to store up in these batteries to last us throughout the night as well. We may continue to make more machines and need a higher amount of power, and eventually we will need a fission, and yes, a fusion reactor. But that will be another day. Right now, I'm just looking around at what we've made in my very first Let's Play, and I gotta say, pretty proud of what we have going. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for episode 2.